Hi there, it's Corey, the Yard Buddha, and I apologize. Today I'm cheating. I am not out in my yard. I am in my house talking about orchids. And I've had a couple people ask me just how I keep care of them because they seem like they tend to struggle with keeping their orchids that maybe someone has given them or that they have just gone to Home Depot and bought out of a pot. And so I'll kind of tell you my secrets. I really think it is all about the roots. And I mean, you can see I like to have these slotted pots so the roots can really breathe and get a whole lot of air. I've got a couple that I bought off of Amazon for 15, 17 bucks, which I'll put in the link to, and then a couple that I've just purchased at a local garden center, like this one here. And if you can buy the right pot, you pretty much can't kill the orchid. Most people have a problem of overwatering, usually because it ends up coming in a pot like this, maybe with a liner inside. And that's okay if you water it in the liner and then let it dry out a little bit and then put it back into the pot. But I don't think it gets a whole lot of airflow inside of there. So some of these orchids can live for 10, 20 years. So I think it's worthwhile, if you're going to try to keep them that long, to just spend 17 bucks and get a nice pot. Plus it's kind of like a piece of art, if you're going to put it in your window and look at it every day. Why not have a cool looking pot instead of just boring? And if you kind of think about orchids, where they came from, I mean, there's almost 1,000 different types and 20,000 different species. These are all Phalaenopsis, which you can just buy at your grocery store. You probably see Home Depot, any of those places. So they're the most common type. But I mean, you can see that a lot of these have different types of roots. Like that one likes to reach out for air. It's grabbing stuff. This one's more thick, kind of curling. And they all are kind of trying to seek the air, and that orchids get very little nutrients from the actual bark that they're in. They're getting all the nutrients from the air, and then also you need to fertilize them as well. And I'll show you how I do that. But if you kind of think of the orchid in the rainforest, which is where they originated from, they just kind of stick on the side of the trees. They're almost like a parasite, and they're just sitting there waiting for the next rainstorm. And so that's kind of how you have to water them. You usually just water them once a week and then let them dry out over the week, because the worst thing you can do is keep them in a soggy pot, like that. Just dump water in it and let the roots sit and rot. And what I've noticed is I have all my plants spiking now, and usually they go through phases. They won't spike if the roots aren't healthy, and so a lot of the time they're just spending their energy rebuilding those roots, and then sometimes they're spending their energy rebuilding the leaves as well. I mean, I've got a new leaf shooting out right here, and I mean, some of these leaves you're never going to be able to fix. This one came in a bag that was vertical like that, and so that leaf is never gonna look normal. But all of these leaves, the new leaves that shoot out, are the energy collectors, and then they are going to put that energy either into roots or into spikes. And I know that's what everybody wants to see, is the spike. And what I've heard is most of these spikes, last between 2 months and 4 months. This one here is probably at least 3 months old, and it is April here now. And I noticed that all of these spiked kind of in the middle of winter. And what I've heard is if you can have a temperature drop, you know, overnight of at least like 10 degrees, that tends to promote the spikes a little bit more. And so I have these in a southward facing window, so they do get, you know, tons of sun, but during the night it cools down a lot here. So like the temperature of my house is 68 degrees, but if I keep these in the window kind of radiates cold, and that gives it some of that drop that it needs. And I do just keep these in the winter in the same spot, you know, the entire time, and we don't get a whole lot of sunlight here during the winter, and these been doing good. So let me show you here just how I fertilize them. Usually every 2 weeks I will make up a batch of fertilizer. I'm just using this Miracle Grow Orchid food, which I think is 30-10-10, and it says you need just a quarter of a teaspoon per gallon. So I've just used this old milk gallon. I mean, you can't get any more accurate than that. And then I usually make up a batch every 2 weeks, and then I will show you kind of how I water the roots here. Alright, so I have and use and love this watering can, which has this kind of long narrow spout which you can accurately get in everywhere inside of your pot. And so all I do is I'll take my jug, fill that up, because you don't want to waste your fertilizer in the water. And on every other week I'll just basically water with normal water. You may want to fertilize a little bit more if you don't have blooms, and a little bit less if you do have blooms, but I've figured that every 2 weeks is usually the case. And so I'm basically just treating this like it's in a rainforest, and I am dumping stuff all over all the roots that I can get to. These are probably going to stay in these pots for a long time, so I don't see myself, you know, changing out the bark or anything. They're getting most of their nutrients from the air and the water anywhere. Anyways, the bark is just kind of there to support the roots and spread it out. But that's what I love about these pots, is you really can't overwater. I mean, everything is just dumping out the sides here at the bottom, and then they do have a little lip here at the bottom that catches any extra water. So I just kind of drain out any excess, but then it's good to go for another week. So usually during the winter I'll water probably every week. During the summer, maybe, depending on how hot it is, every 5 days or so. But that is all that I do. Thanks for watching. We'll see you later.